to today's session.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session.
Hi, good
I'm
afternoon.
Prerna Mohan, founder and CEO of Prerna Mohan Design Studio, and your moderator for this webinar hosted by All India Retail Group. So All India Retail Group is one of the leading associations of retail professionals and retailers in India, which is working continuously for the welfare and development of retail community in India since 2015. The main focus of AIRG is to improve the social infrastructure of the society and help the weak and underprivileged people, especially from the retail community. On a lighter note, if you all would like to know how it feels to be in retail in this coronavirus period, remember when the Titanic sank and the band continued to play? Well, we are the band. Okay, once the extreme lockdown is over, while everyone will have a latent fear of virus in their minds, and on the other hand, people would still want to step out. At least I'm definitely craving to go out. Because 2020 being a unique year, it feels like there are 29 days in February, 300 days in March, and 10 years in April. So the customer will also be craving for some entertainment. And that's what retail industry has been about primarily: beach shopping, salons, restaurants, or cinemas. So while what has happened is quite unprecedented and unfortunate, I'm glad that we have gathered today to discuss a way forward. On that note, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists. I'm glad to have Mrs. Manisha Sangani, owner of Just Lifestyle, which operates with two formats, Just Watches and Just in Vogue, with 76 stores across 39 cities in India. It doesn't end here. Manisha is also the brain behind Aspen Watches, which is making waves in the Indian luxury consumer brands. Welcome, Manisha. I welcome Mr. C.K. Kumaravel, aka CKK Sir, that's what we love to call him, and co-founder of India's leading unisex salon chain Naturals, with over 600 salons across the nation. We cannot see you, Mr. CKK. Yeah, now we can. Yes. Since opening the first salon in the year 2000, till having over 600 salons across the nation, CKK Sir has been hailed as a game changer in the salon and the franchising industry. I welcome Mr. Bhupesh Dingar, Director of Enrich Salons. Enrich is one of the most premium salons operating in the country, and also the largest chain of the country owned and company-run hair and beauty salons, wherein he's spearheading the brand's rapid growth in the beauty and services industry across India. Mr. Bhupesh has been featured in the front runners column of Top Young Achievers in Business India. Moving to Mr. Vishal Kapoor, it is wonderful to have you with us, Vishal, who has been adding glory to the Future Group projects as the Chief Design Officer for the last 18 years. His 2.5 decades of retail experience has been a constant focus on building the integrated strategic business perspective with a customer-centered design approach. And he loves to evangelize design as a key value add to today's matters of trade and governance. I welcome Mr. Sanjay Patil. Sanjay comes with a dynamic career of 2 decades. He's known for his result-oriented management skills. The man behind the tables when we enjoy our pizzas. Sanjay is leading the design and projects team at Jubilant Foodworks as head of design and projects. Jubilant has brands like Domino's Pizza, Dunkin' Donuts, and Hong's Kitchen under its ambit. Lastly, I welcome a very dear friend, Poulami Chaudhary. Poulami possesses brilliant knowledge of design. With a demonstrated history of working in the industry for pioneers like PBR, she's now leading the design team at Chayos, a brand which has revolutionized chai drinking in the country and has made it look cool. Okay, so today's lockdown will slowly start ending somewhere. It will start easing out. Well, the restrictions have already started easing out in the green and the orange zones. And at some point it shall end. But though it's not very clear when will this happen, perhaps even more uncertain is what the frame of the mind of the erstwhile customers would be. So on that note, I asked my first question to, I asked my first question of the session to Mr. CKK Sir. Do you believe that retail design will play a vital role in bringing the customer back to the showroom? If yes, what innovations can be done for the same? Mr. CKK?
Thank you, Prerna. And good afternoon to my fellow panelists and friends. Also to all the attendees who have joined for this wonderful, very innovative session. Thank you so much for organizing this.
Thank you.
Before going to your question, I want to quickly talk about 2-3 minutes before I get into the answer to your question.
Sure.
First, I think the corona is a very, post-corona period is a very important period. Fast forward 18 to 20 months from here, which is December of 2021, we will all look back and 70% will think that this corona is the worst thing which has happened to their life, and life have been very unkind, business have been very competitive, jobs have been lost.
That's there.
And what do you call, the government has not helped us. And so many things, so on and so forth, we'll be speaking about. And then they'll say, I have been doing very well or reasonably well, or I just started, etc. before that. And my life has been, suddenly I can't help it. And my astrology chart is not good, blah, blah, blah. They will be speaking. But 30% of the people will say that, hey, this is the best thing which has happened to us. Post-corona is perhaps what is the best thing. Before that, our business model was completely different. We have organized it so well. Today, it has become a lot more profitable. My per employee yield has come out very well. And all those things are going to happen. So the question to ask is, are you going to remain in the 70% or are you going to remain in the 30%? When your mind is weak, the situation will look like a problem. When your mind is normal, same situation will look like a challenge. When your mind is strong, same situation will look like an opportunity. The question to ask is, how are you tuning your mind? Imagine you are going into a forest and suddenly when lion comes in front of you, you have a problem. Imagine you are going in the forest and again the same lion comes in front of you and you have an AK-47 in your hand. Now lion has a problem. The corona is the lion. And how well are we going to equip ourselves is really going to take the business and life forward in the post-corona world. And that's the point I want to leave with as a start of the program before I answer your question. And I think everything is going to change fundamentally because the customers have changed. When we go before corona and after corona, what the fundamental changes, the customers have changed. Their expectations have changed. For instance, when we come to salon business, before that, the customer's primary factors for selecting a salon is the brand very good brand? Is the stylist very, reputed? Is the product what they are using extremely good? Is it nearer to my salon? What is the charges? What is the value their price I'm going to give for a haircut, etc. are going to determine a lot more then is going to determine a lot more. But in the post-corona world, only thing which is going to determine is the salon safe, is it hygienic, is it clean, and is it actually the term social distancing is wrong. It is not social distancing. Actually, we are socially much more connected now. It is physical distancing.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the physical distancing is in order? Am I going to feel safe in the salon? And that's going to be the scenario in which people are going to look at before they are selecting. And that is where a design element comes into the picture. Apart from making it aesthetically looking good, you also have to make it functionally be very, very good. In the sense, the customer, by the look of it, should get a feel that, hey, this is a salon which is safe. This is the salon which is hygienic. This is the salon which is clean for me. And this is the salon I will bet my, time on. If you are able to put that, I think that's what the customer is going to expect.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point that you've made, that this is the time to clear the clutter and organize our backend and then come back even stronger as an organization and as a body. So that is a very, very good note. Yeah. And how do you think, any further suggestions you would like to bring in to bring back the customers to the salons and to the respective stores and other outlets?
I don't think luckily we are one of the few businesses where customers are waiting for us. We don't have to go and wait for customers. Already the customers are calling and asking, hey, can I come and care for me? I'm willing to pay you 2 times and 3 times and 4 times and things like that. But that's fortunately we are in a business that customers are more in need of us than we are in need of customers.
Yes.
It is not a discretionary spending and things like that. It has become very necessary. See how I am looking at. The first thing I want to go to, usually I don't, when I come to Zoom call, I used to keep my video off because that's how much we are conscious about how we look and things like that. So in terms of customers, yes, I don't see it as a big problem. They are all waiting. We only need to give them the reassurance that when they walk into our salon, they will go safe. And that's the only reassurance we need to give them. And that's where design plays an important role. More I will speak as we speak. I think let's all get introduced and we'll keep the conversation.
Vishal, do you want to come in here? you want to come in here and you think that you have some more suggestions? I mean, Mr. CKK was very, very precise and very positive, and that definitely gives us a lot of positive energy to think that we're going to clear the clutter behind us and we're going to be prepared, more prepared for a better future. Anything you feel that design-wise we should do within our stores and our outlets to bring the customer back to the store?
See, one of the biggest objectives of design is to announce a new conversation or a new communication.
Yes.
And I think the positive which I see with the COVID is that suddenly we've all started thinking as human beings about each other. Even when we maintain the so-called distance, it is more out of precaution and care than really out of an administrative norm. Of course, the government had put certain communication, but it's now more out of inherent care about let me not spread the disease. I think in retail, this human centricity is going to matter a lot more than ever before. Now, if you are saying my heart is ready for a certain human-centric approach, now what methods do I apply? Methods can be multiple. I was yesterday, surfing in terms of how the restaurants are doing in Australia and in some places. And about 5 days back, just for the sake of thinking, I sent one image of how in the jail you would talk to each other, when the relatives come in between the two glass panels.
Yes.
I mean, unfortunately for us, or unfortunately, that seems to be the design inspiration in a lot of F&B cases, possibly coming up. In retail specific, there are changes which are going to happen. One, of course, is a basic SOP of how things are going to be communicated, most important, how things are going to be done. Because communication, we are all good in. How do we do it in India is very, very, very critical.
Absolutely.
Yes. Second, in what detail do we go to in terms of having that base sensitivity and having an execution plan?
Yes.
Third, what techniques do we use? What equipments do we use? What technology do we use to ensure that this further enhances the need for connect, yet with a bit of a distance, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I think to start the conversation, the biggest challenge for us as designers would be to create that balance between a clinical kind of a dry approach towards still keeping it an emotional storytelling. Because emotional storytelling yesterday was all about congregation.
Yes.
Now it's really about dissociation. So how do you keep that balance? That's what is going to be a main challenge for all the designers, I think.
Right. So that was very well said, that it should be a human-centric design. And while keeping it clinically dry, maintaining a clinically dry approach, we still have to have that human element, and that emotional balance has to be maintained. I think that's put up really very well. Moving on to the next, if anybody has any suggestions or they want to come in, please feel free to come and you can. Pauline, you want to say something? Okay. Okay, moving on to the next question. So first we have a small suggestion here as retail designers. We feel how it can help the customer back into the store. So I'm purely just speaking in terms of retail design and nothing else. Our panelists have already given us some very good viewpoints here. So using VM to convey the message. Like we see this lady on the slide wearing a mask, such type of messages need to be conveyed to the customer by means of VM to bring them back to the store. That's a small suggestion from our side. As we can see on the next slide, posters can be put up everywhere as a part of the window display. And the same message can be conveyed to the customers via omni-channel platforms. So we feel things like this can help increase footfalls, generate footfalls, increase the revenue, because that inhibition is there in the minds of the customer these days to come back. Although they so, like very rightly said by Mr. CKK, they so want to come back themselves. They are willing to offer the money, and especially when need-based businesses like his and food and grocery items, where people want to come back, still have that experience of shopping. But there are other stores where apparels and jewelry and more luxury brands, wherein people go more for entertainment and more for experience. So there is going to be some point where the customer will step out, but and it's not too far away. But to ward off that inhibition, we have to send out those positive messages to the customer, and that visual merchandising can be one of the mediums to do that. So while it is essential for us to talk about sustainability of our businesses, the safety of our employees and customers cannot be ignored, and we all have been discussing that. That should be the utmost priority. So I would like to raise the next question to Manisha. What innovative design solutions can be added to a store to ensure the safety of employees as well as the customers? Manisha, you'll have to put yourself on mute, off mute.
Sorry. So Prerna, taking on where you started, where saying the customer is dying to come in, I would like to reiterate there has been, and of course the social media and communication has to continue, but there has been more than enough information out there, and I have seen that the customer is itching to go back. We've seen pictures of this jewelry store in South, and of course the alcohol stores, and I've heard stories of a few stores that are opened up in Goa and other places where the customers are lining up to go in. And of course, safety measures have been taken on. Central in Guwahati started, and what they did, of course, Vishal will talk further. There were a lot of safety measures, which people will see when they go there, and we'll send it forward. Talking about our retail store, in hindsight, we never realized anything like coronavirus. But if you put up the slides of our store, we were very lucky. What we did was we were one of the first retail stores to give an flush counters against the wall. And the entire store is an open expanse. So there's always more than enough space. Secondly, we started omni-channel. So with omni-channel, we've already communicated to our customers that could you choose your watches, take an appointment and come in. And even outside, we're going to have an iPad or on their own phone, they could decide and we could have the watches they want ready for them on a tray. Of course, there'll be the sanitizer and all the hoopla because our team and customers' safety and sanitization is the most important. But we don't want to waste too much time on that. The second thing we thought, you may have customers who want to try on a watch. So we've come out with these sort of plastic wristbands, which would make sure that the watch doesn't go on the skin. And we will be handing over disposable gloves. And the customer could try the watch and we could, then sanitize it and put it back. And the wristband could be thrown away. So these are the few things, and we were thinking about. I also shared our store, and there's an augmented reality app where the customer can actually see the watch on their wrist. So we are talking to these people. Of course, we may have or may have not done that earlier, but now looking at the scenario, we thought we'd look into it. But the second thought, as an owner, I realized. Is the customer really looking for this? Are we getting very hyper and keep the delight and the entertainment? Why are they coming to us versus an online store? And that is where we're creating so my stores, I have a red and yellow, which says we are passionate, and the yellow is sunshine yellow to keep you happy, and that's what they're looking for. And our sales staff is also very, very, friendly, so we don't give that luxury image. We give that very approachable, and we've kept that. That's been very important to us, and that's what we're working on. If you get the chance, and we can put the slides of my stores.
Oh.
Yeah, Dushyant, is that possible now?
Is it possible to put up the stores slides of the Just Watches stores that ma'am just shared with us?
Yes.
Yeah. And while we do that, so I think the red and yellow design, I think that's very, very nice. So it's similar to what Vishal said. So human-centric design, clinical approach with an emotional balance. So color coding, it could be red and yellow. Very, very nice.
And our sales team and managers are dressed in this nice, bright, light blue and a yellow. So, we've been very different that, it's a luxury watch. No, we're saying, it's a fun place. Come in, check it out.
Very inviting.
Don't purchase, but we are here to delight you.
Very nice.
And is there that, you can decide and come back later to that.
Absolutely. And the measures that you spoke about in terms of safety were sanitization and touchless shopping experience and better use of technology. And flush wall fixtures, so there's more movement space around and less.
And then the most important thing is, we were all excited when the first store Guwahati started, and the first thing we asked our team, so it was silly things like Central Guwahati, was have you checked the wiring, if they have any rats eaten into it? Then they were worried because we have, the biometrics. So this is, ma'am, after we put the biometric, what will happen? We've touched it. So I said, okay, we've got to check that out. Can that be sterilized or you just didn't? So these are small things, which was so funny.
And that is what is critical. That is what the customer is looking at.
So when we did, we got our staff to go with the store manager and make sure that everything was secure and fine.
Perfect. Dushyant, can we have ma'am's slides? I think
I'm actually trying to do that, but I guess there's some issue, some technical glitches there.
Yeah, later on we'll, okay.
We'll share that definitely.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and now coming to the slides, they're very similar to what you said, Manisha. So the same slides is very similar to what we are going to be showing here on the screen. So this is first being sanitization of these spaces. Like we can see in this picture, this person is walking through the sanitization tunnel. We can add things like these at the store entrance to gain an additional level of protection. This is especially more viable for large retail format stores, supermarkets, hypermarkets, and cinemas. And roughly rupees 1.5 lakhs is required for the supply and installation of a tunnel like this. In fact, malls, as retailers, we can advise the malls to install such tunnels at the entrances as well. And two self-sanitization tunnels have been installed by the government at the Azadpur Mandi, at the gates of the Azadpur Mandi. They've just been done. Then moving to the next slide.
Sorry, may I interrupt on that, Prerna? I'm so sorry. So there has been feedback. These tunnels may not be, may be hazardous because all the chemicals on you. I don't know if anyone else has heard. So it's flammable. So the government decided that they are not approving it.
Okay, yeah. So we definitely have to check on that because this was just, some data that we gathered and we thought that we should put it in front of you, but we really have to check the credibility and how safe it is actually. Okay, moving to the next slide. Touchless hand sanitizer dispenser stands, what Manisha was just mentioning, and can also be installed at the entrance of the store, which I think all of us would be doing, both automatic and foot operated ones. And after that, flexible demarcation tapes on the floor can dictate the formation of a queue, adhering to the norms of social distancing, or should we say physical distancing as mentioned by CKK sir, at a minimum distance of 1 meter, because we don't always have very large stores. So at least 1 meter, otherwise the government advises 2 meters. So these are small things that we thought that we could sort of do to maintain the safety and standards for our employees as well as the customers. So, well, thanks to the digital revolution now that we are currently being able to see each other and we are able to have this seminar with so much ease. Digitization has become an integral part of the world around us. So my next question is to Mr. Bhupesh. How can digitization and technology be integrated within a store's design to sustain the shopping experience and also maintain the cash flow in the new normal, like they're calling it post-COVID-19, the new normal?
Yeah, okay, Bhupesh here. Now, I think building on what CKK said, that no longer does the customer look for convenience, for the reputation of this thing. The key word there, I think, is safe. So what's happening today is that the shopping environment is now being, there's an underlying basis of fear.
Right.
And that's not a good place to be in. What we need to do as retailers and as design people is to create an environment which encourages not fear, but probably a structure, a calm. And that is where I think a lot of, technology and design can work together. So far, I think all retail design has been on one premise. Can I maximize the shopping journey, increase the dwell time, as we call it in retail? Suddenly is going to change. Suddenly, can I make it more, if she has come in, make it efficient so she quickly gets out and maximize her shopping journey. So what we did at Enrich is actually work out the entire customer journey and try and figure out what are the various touch points that the customer has. And our business is a high touch business.
Yeah.
But almost like making a no touch metric to see which are the processes in the customer's journey that can be digitized out. And that's in the salon, which is a high-touch business. But even if I look to my co-panelists, be it in the Future Group or in an apparel store or watches, you step back and think, why does a customer touch the product in the first place? I'm not talking a service industry like mine, but a product industry. Two things I can think of. One is when she knows what she wants, she goes, picks up the product and puts it into a shopping cart. That's one type of reason why she would touch the product. In which case it's easy. I should have on my phone probably an app-based shopping, an app-based checkout, an app-based, ordering and checkout everything. Or if I'm in Jubilant in a restaurant, can I sit on my seat and do all the app-based ordering and shopping? But the second reason a customer could touch a product is when she doesn't know much about the product. When she's picking up the product, trying to understand the name, the ingredients, the rate, the grammage, whatever. So I think they're probably going to end up with, a wall full of QR codes or something, So you probably use your own phone, just scan the QR code. I can read all about the ingredients of a product, all about the beneficial thing, which can work in a food store. If it is apparel, they already exist this magic mirror type of stuff that comes. You see how you look. But that's the reason you would touch a product. I'm sure we have all heard about that Amazon thing going on, right? They had this self-checkout. They did about 2 years now. They had opened a store like 24 hours, unmanned. You could walk in anytime, no help required. And we might think it's too exotic. But I was pleasantly surprised to know about 2 weeks ago, Amazon has now outsourced that technology in the sense that if you go to a website, it's called justwalkout.com. So what Amazon has done is that Amazon Go store, which was like a self-service store, 24 hours, done entirely on your app, you can now log into justwalkout.com and they are prepared to white label that technology back onto you. And that's fascinating because now they've seen a surge of inquiries now in the last 2 weeks because that's how it's going to change. And like we mentioned earlier in the panel, we have all adopted a technology. I'm sure even in India, some version of it will get adopted to. The speed at which we all have got into Zoom and all the digital platforms, the same thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
But then in our business, in the salon business, it works by appointment, right? We do have an appointment system. All of us have the thing. In a restaurant, you probably have an appointment. But what about something else? What about apparel shopping, food shopping? I sense there will be appointment-based shopping coming up soon. There are already people who are reaching out to us saying, do you want a digital queue? Now just imagine, right? As I think Vishal had said, it is a human-centric thing. You want to be together, yet maintain that physical distance. So can I then log into an app, take out my digital queue number at a pre-appointed time and say, okay, between 3 and 3:30, I'm fourth in the queue and go to the nearest apparel store. Just imagine how that will change dramatically. It's not e-commerce impersonal. You still want to be human-centric, as he had said. You want a mix of a shared experience as well as some privacy. And that's how it's going to happen. Can you really segregate them? You want to maintain that link. If you read yesterday or day before, I think there was a restaurant that opened up in Denmark or somewhere, where a restaurant where had surrounded each table with a glass cubicle. So that, see, an obvious solution is what we are all doing, which is segregating the chairs and using every alternate chair, but you lose capacity in the process. But if you could, and what the Denmark restaurants are actually build glass cubicles around each table so that you are separate, there's a physical partition, and yet you are part of a whole. So that balance between a shared experience and a private experience. And that's the interesting part of the human-centric that's going to come in. But all this I can think of is once you've entered the store, the challenge, as we say, is how do you convince the customer to come to your store in the first place? Where's the safety? How do you convince her? We have all seen, we have all posted social media stuff. We are taking this precaution, that precaution, more or less come to the same thing. So there's a coffee chain I know in China. About 3-4 years ago, they started this. It's called Luckin Coffee Chain. And it's very fascinating. There were 1,000+ outlets. But they video stream their coffee making live to everybody. Now just imagine, you as a customer sitting in your office, have a Luckin coffee down the road, but you can see, okay, this is fresh coffee being made, and I go in when it is fresh. So I was just thinking, Dunkin' Donuts could do the same thing. If I could live video stream, okay, this is a fresh batch of, donuts coming out. Just imagine the confidence that you would get as a customer that, yes, wow, this is fresh, this is hygienic, this is what happens in the restaurant or pizza, this is what happens in a salon, are all examples where I think you can use technology smarter. Because the fact is the customer has become, hygiene conscious and crazily so, hyper hygiene conscious for want of any word. That is what is going to happen. That's going to change. And that's how I think, some structure, some calmness would start coming into the customer. That's, I think, where I can think right now how to use technology. And we'll keep learning. I'm sure we'll keep learning as more technology evolves. Over to you, Prerna.
Thanks, Dipesh. That was very, very informative. And you put it up very nicely that we have to first recognize the touch points, because that is where the whole question of using technology arises. So we'll have to, what all can be digitized? That's what you said. So we have to identify those points, and then we can apply technology, relevant technology, in those very zones. So that is, I think, a very good point. And yeah, we should all go and check out this justwalksout.com. Yeah.
Check it out. Like 2 weeks ago.
Great. Yes, Manisha wants to come in here.
So
Yes.
I saw a question from one of the participants, and he's asking about payment where there's no touch payment. So I'm sure that everyone here, I think it was Vishal who asked the question from the participants. All of us are working on that, where you do not need to the credit card or whatever. Now there's a lot of opportunities you have, and don't worry, that will be available at all the retail outlets that are here.
Yes. In fact, I was traveling to Europe 2 years back, and I remember that most of the stores were not, even then, they were not using those paper bills. So you would just go and then they would send the bill on your email, and yeah.
So we already have that. I think most people, because that's how you built your CRM. And in watches, you need a warranty for 2 years. So we tell people that instead of a paper bill, we're going to email it to you. And we already have a CRM collected on that, and that's always on their email. So that's a bill that you have. You're not suddenly, oh, my watch is spoiled and I've got to look for a bill. So we have 2 points over there. One, we give them an e-bill, and second, if you register on Just Watches, you get an additional warranty.
Very good. So an offer along.
In fact, if I add to that, we are going to give a discount for non-cash payment. You get extra benefit for doing non-cash payment.
Incentivizing it, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Because the cost and the junket of doing the whole thing, be touching cash and all the contaminant issues, is far easier to move it digitally and non-cash and incentivize the customer for it.
And I think both the pandemic now and even the demonetization has happened. What it has done is it has got a lot of people online, and these online Paytm, well, I'm just talking about the regular wallets that are available, the UPIs and the Google Pay and the Paytms. So people are there. So that hesitation has gone away of paying virtually. I mean, and not using tangible cash. Okay, so can we have the slides? Can we have the slides for that? Okay, so these are some basic things that we've already spoken about, and Bhupesh has briefed us very nicely. This is just a repetition of that, a pictorial representation of that. So introducing magic mirrors and getting rid of the trial rooms for the casual retailers. Although we don't really feel that it is going to be possible for the retail people who are doing customized wear, but for most of the people who are doing casual wear, and even for watches, like we were talking to Manisha about it, we can, well, the watches, those stores don't need trial rooms, but I'm talking merely about the apparel segment right now. We can think of getting rid of the trial rooms, and we can use these magic mirrors. So touchless trials can become a part of, can be a part of the regular. And Mrs. Manisha shared a lovely video with us yesterday, that is the need of the hour. So let us play it for you for a better understanding. There's no music. Okay, so that was that. And endless aisles is yet another way wherein you place an order on the phone and while walking through the store, and you pay and pick up at the shop checkout counter. So now touchless checkouts will become imperative. While the cashier can wear gloves while operating the computer, but the computer might not be comfortable, but the customer might not be comfortable in exchanging the currency, and bill payment can be done using one's phone and generating e-bills over paper bills. That is something that we just spoke about. So these were some few points about technology and digitization of these retail stores. Now, to inspire confidence in these hyper hygiene conscious consumers, the retail premises will have to be established not solely as experiential playgrounds, but also as trusted and transparent havens. So Vishal, here's my question for you. How do you foresee a future retail store in terms of design after what we have witnessed due to COVID-19? What are your views as a design professional on being prepared for any such unprecedented situation that might occur in the future? Well, we hope nothing like this will ever strike us, but to be prepared, what changes in a store design do you think should be done?
I think I'll zoom out a bit before I come into the store design, because store design is mostly an outcome of what we think.
Right.
I think the way COVID is forcing us is to rethink our entire business model, the way we want to deliver. Right? We've talked about a lot of micro things, things which we are doing on the floor. But imagine putting all of this together and then making it sustainable anywhere from 10 to 20 to 100 to 200 stores, and doing it 24/7. Now that requires a certain process, a certain structure, a certain form, a certain shape, which we are not accustomed to before, right? So one of the things about design would be to really create that notion of, seamless sort of a collaboration across all bodies, create a communication. You in your initial slides had shown some communication on how you can prevent COVID, right? Now imagine if all kinds of multiple messages are being given by the same organization across its various branches, the same message might sound so confusing. Right. So how do you bring in a sense of seamlessness in the way you communicate? As simple as that. How do people sort of come as a part of this design structure? How do they integrate, not just in terms of the look and the feel, but also in terms of the process of how they service? How do the spaces service? From there, coming to specifically to spaces, I think in the last couple of years, a lot of designs have moved towards this word called maximalism, if it's the right word, where we do a lot of things inside the space, right? I think we're going to go into a little more conscious simplicity in terms of our design. Of course, the CapExes have been hit badly for all the organizations. So one good learning out of that CapEx is to create a design which basically is simpler and easy to understand, right? But that requires a lot more thought than ever before, because simplicity doesn't mean literalism. Simplicity means to think a little more and bring out a little more, finally, as a simple medium to the consumer. So one is we will move, I think, towards conscious simplicity. Second, as somebody also touched upon, I think the stores need not look like closed boxes now, because moment it's claustrophobic, the more conscious I feel about the environment coming and hitting me, and feel the sense of safety sort of starts diminishing. So if the stores are airy, the stores are more circulation, the air conditioning works in a much better way. There is technology to help. For example, there are these UV lights which you can put in your AHU rooms, and these lights sort of filter the entire air of the air conditioning system. And what air you get is really a much more improved air quality. Things like those. So spaces need, like as Ms. Manisha said, as you come into their store, it just opens up. So it's a wonderful thing to see. Not the same old store. It's a space where you can socialize, you can sit together, but still keep the distance. So I think things like those. I think we will also see some differences or some sort of control over certain materials. For example, certain surface materials have a higher intensity to catch the bacteria for a longer period. Steel and stone are probably one of them, which catches almost up to 72 hours. And this is a well-known fact to all the people who are literate, right? And how do you then possibly, move into other materials? For example, copper is supposed to be a very low intensity and low holding material for virus. It just has about 3 to 4 hours. So can those materials start finding their way back into retail? Things like that. Low touch will still be a very high, experience and a high demand. I see supermarkets now going into possibly single aisles, So if you look at the aisles, we always have about 6 to 8 feet of space where we want people to move, but that demands a lot of rubbing and scrubbing, right? So here, maybe we'll have only a 4 feet aisle, which only has one way entry and one way exit. So you could possibly have, controlled crowd even within, and that is all for the benefit which consumers understand. So things like those. So as I said, I think the biggest challenge is balance between sterility and emotion. How do we gain that? We can all do all kinds of processes, put hand sanitizers after every 2 feet, but does that remind the customer that she's unsafe, right? And for me, one of the most peculiar things is the face mask. I believe a lot of people come to the malls because they want to see each other. They want to see human faces. You don't want to see, people with masks all over. Now that's a big challenge for getting people together in a congregation, in a mall specifically. So maybe some innovation that also will happen as we move ahead. So I think strategic as well as tactical, both have to be dealt. Strategic for a long term because the business is now changing, the way of business is changing, and tactical because all these things have to be done on an everyday basis. They cannot be ignored.
Yes. Thanks, Vishal.
Thank you.
So that was again very informative, and we got to know about some very relevant points that we can use copper as a material which holds the virus for not as much time as the steel or other materials are holding, and the UV lights that he spoke about, which can filter the air in the room.
Right.
Of course, and like very validly, it's a very valid point that the spaces don't need to look like closed boxes, and there's a sense of insecurity that starts stepping in. Well said. Do you want to come in, Sanjay, at this? And
yeah. So I was just wanting to add a little bit on the mask bit, where Vishal spoke about people wanting to come into mall spaces, and obviously not everyone is very comfortable, or it's not a great vista, I would say. It adds a little more in, let's say, our restaurants, because if you have a mask on, how do you eat your pizza? If you're planning to eat it there. So it was like a very big question, which, to be honest, we don't have an answer yet, but we are wondering how to, go about solving that question. I thought I'll just share that on the mask.
Right.
Factor, yeah.
Good. Well, okay. So, Polumi, again, coming to you now, what changes would you like to incorporate in the designing and planning of high traffic retail spaces like F&B and cinemas? This is exactly what Sanjay was just discussing about. It's different on a lighter note, that the customers of the bars and cafes might start saying that now, since everybody has started washing their hands, peanuts at the bar have lost their taste. But still, we need to be careful about our customers. What changes do you propose for, or do you foresee?
So I'd like to start by saying that fear of going out is something which we have never experienced. And as you started the program by saying that the retail is all about, fun, enjoyment, community. That's how it generally works. So that is something which we have to now grapple around with. Now, me being an optimistic or a superlatively high optimistic person, so I think that there can be two kind of people. One, the high on hygiene people, and there are some people who would just want to go out and just go out for going out. So we cannot assume who our customers are anymore. So there is nothing saying this is the person I'm designing for. So am I designing for a hyper vigilante, or am I designing for somebody who is like, okay, chalo, it's okay, I'll wear the mask and I'll wash my hands, and that kind of a person. So we actually don't know whom we are designing for right now. And I think right now there is this innate fear because we are inside. Maybe few months down the line, the fear will ebb. And then we are like, okay, chill, the COVID happened, things happen in life. So that is where my mindset is right now in terms of thinking about my client base whom I'm going to design for going forward. So I have a three-pronged approach in terms of when I say design of a space. One would be, as we are already saying, that we have to reintroduce ourselves to the clients. We have to say that we are hygienic, we are safe, we are taking these measures, and all that things we have to keep on saying, so that the spaces that we are designing, and which are actually community spaces and much more trusted spaces, okay, then I will not get transmitted from this mall or this theater or this eatery or whatever we are selling at that point of time. So that is something which is very important for me, so that the people kind of think that, okay, I'm going to a safe place. It's not a crazy place where, I am definitely going to be rogered. Second, coming to how we have to work on the layouting, as everybody is saying that the layout is paramount. So layout has to have that, the way F&B is being talked about, you have to have some kind of physical distance. Does it need to be a glass enclosure? Does it need to be just space around for the timing when this, this craze is there? That is something which we will gradually know as the dust settles. Not right now that, we cannot make a decision based. We can assume that, okay, the people who are starting to come out will still want some precaution, but 3 months down the line, will they want that precaution is something which we don't know right now, because we don't know what we will be thinking 3 months down the line. As they obviously the people in the store will have to have some kind of PPE, some kind of a sanitization SOPs and all that in place, which will also help us building that trust. Okay, saying that this is how our people are working tirelessly for you, ensuring that this thing does not happen to you. We also, in a bigger store or a smaller store, we can always have some kind of a traffic plan mapped out for the customer who is coming in and saying, okay, this is the route. So right now, it's a very easy way, the way you had shown that people have to stand in the queue, that those circles and those lines have now become a part of our life. And that kind of, you see a circle, oh, I need to step on that. That's a mindset change which has already happened in most of us. So we can always have a route marked within the store saying, okay, you go number 1 and then number 2 and number 3. That's how you can, make the people walk around in the store, because now people look at the floor and say, okay, I need to go that direction. So that is something which anyways has helped the designer. The mindset change is already helping us doing that. So now these are the visible components of a property design, I would say. Now there's some invisible components which already has been said by the panelists, and I'd like to reiterate it, that we have to stop using porous materials, things which will keep the germs within. And like maybe a exposed brick wall is something which for me would be like, okay, do I now want to do it? Then there were some microbial proof antimicrobial laminates which was being discussed, which is primarily used in healthcare, kindergartens, and they were expensive, let's face it, because of the demand was very less. Now with the more demand coming in, can we start thinking of use, because the colors are there? All I'm saying, okay, my laminate is safe. So, these are things that I am thinking right now on that note. And also, as everybody is aware that it's primarily spread through the, it's an airborne disease and all. So maybe in a bigger format, like maybe a cinema can have advanced technology in which you can filter the air. If the per cycle filtration increases, and when you're coming in, you are already maybe by a small note saying ki aap aa rahe hain, this area that you're coming in the cinema, the air quality is like 100% there, you don't worry about any virus being in the system, so that's been taken care of. So these kind of the organizations of the retail spaces have to be empathetic with the people who think that, okay, there is a problem. So like cinema already has declared that they will have a social distancing norm, that you will have 2 people sitting across and then one aisle might be left empty. These kind of things they are also thinking. There is doorknobs which will have to be constantly clean. So these are all part of SOPs that are already been taken care of. But that fact that we need to be cognizant of the fact that people are scared and kind of empathize with them, and as an industry come together and say, okay, we understand, we care, we are doing these 5 things to take care of you, that is going to go a long way. Also, we are all in the construction industry in a way. So,
yes.
So we also have this responsibility, not just for the customers who are coming in, but also for the people who are working while making our stores. So we have to make sure that, the things that we now, because of all this transport chaos, people, exodus happening and all, labor as well as material is going to be very important how we source it. So going local might be something which we have to now forced to be thinking, okay, chalo, you're making in Delhi, let's buy local, let's go local. So that's something which we need to maybe, kind of think that this is what is my way forward while designing, make more local materials. This is also go for more prefab items, which is made in a sterile factory, come and bring it in. As Vishal had rightly said, that we have to make a space clean, hygienic, but it does not have to feel like a hospital. It has to be happy, safe place. So now this COVID situation has, broken so many rules in my own mind. Like I never thought I as an architect, I can work from home. Oh, please. That's just not happening in my life. So I had to have those 5 people around me working in a team. So that has changed. We have changed so many things in our lifestyle. Also, our design also now need to be more agile, be more creative in terms of taking care of this COVID. And I'm not sure. Maybe 6 months down the line, this discussion is futile. Maybe 6 months down the line, the COVID is gone, and we're like, yay, back to square one. So, so the knee-jerk reactions, yes, social distancing, yes, we have to think. But long term, I think the way the digital platforms are getting more activated and more fast-tracked is something very pleasant to know, because it's the way to go. So more than physical spaces, the fact that you are figuring out where all people can avoid touching is going to help us in a longer run. So yeah, the longer run things I'm totally game for. The shorter run things I'm kind of thinking maybe may not be. Yeah, that's where I am right now. Thanks.
Yeah.
That was
I would
very
like to add on what Paulomi said, and I think the digital part is going to now find more integration to the physical, right? And that would impact the physical also. And if I look at the food and grocery stores, and we look at the concept of endless aisles or a concept of omni-channel, there would be a hybrid model. That's what I'm assuming in the stores, where pick and go efficiency is going to be also looked into, apart from the individual customer browsing efficiencies. So you might have both online model and offline model integrated into the stores to make the entire store productive.
So Bhupisha, can I add? So while I like Paulomi's point that the different types of customers and who are we designing for, but also I think as designers, you'll have to understand, and we are from business side, that whatever suggestions you all give, 2 things are critical to us. One, try not to reduce my capacity, because as I'm struggling for any footfall. So it's easy to say I will separate everybody and make an alternate aisle, but ultimately I'm working 50% capacity and a reduced footfall. So clearly as business, we're looking for designers to come with something else. It may not be as dramatic as, enclosing each customer, which can work in restaurant, but it shall be a friendly place. I don't want to go in a situation as a customer, it is like scary and intimidating. And that's the question. Can I incur such a high capex, but then 1 year down the road, when customers get used to it, you said, what the hell, how do I dismantle the whole thing again? And that's, I think, the challenge between the designer and the business, to understand what is the input you all can give us that is implementable without me losing capacity, and we'll just have to live the way the customer evolves.
I agree, and I think just to revert to that, the capex never goes on the basics. Capex will always go on the fancy.
Yes.
So you have to cut the fancy and make the basic more intelligent. That's all.
Yes. That's a very good line. I'm going to use that for my customers. Okay. So I think this was very insightful, and I'm glad that all of us came in and we all had something to say on this. And now just some quick slides we're going to quickly show you. Dushyant, can we have the slides? Okay. So like we already spoke, Vishal and Paulomi have already spoken about this. So one way of planning these stores post COVID-19 is having ample circulation space. So like Manisha mentioned about flush fixtures and less wall and less floor fixtures. So also we see in the picture partition walls that have been created at the inception of the store design itself, which can be used for displaying merchandise, as well as act as segregators between 2 people shopping or 2 sets of people who are shopping. Then the selling counters, gondolas, can be kept apart from each other at an increased distance. This would again reduce the chances of contact with the customers. And then there are partitions, like again, we were speaking about these. Partitions like these can be installed in F&B outlets for salons and other spaces while getting a pedicure done, or maybe while watching a movie, ensuring contactless dine out, as we saw in the Fab India slide yesterday that was shared with us. So these partitions can also be created between your chairs or recliners, as I said, while watching a movie or a salon or something. So these were a few slides that we thought we should share with you. Now quickly, there is one last thing that I want to discuss, which is certainly the first one on our minds right now. With the reduced footfalls and almost zero revenue, we all have to stay lean, and we have to cut corners in terms of cost. Now, I'm sure Sanjay's problem-solving attitude will certainly help us here. What do you feel should be done in terms of retail design to contain the capital expenditure?
So the entire panel has spoken a lot about how the benchmark for the new normal has changed. So obviously everyone now walking into any sort of retail space, the expectations have changed. So where does it lead us, when we start talking about CapEx? So the obvious is, bad news, because we are talking about technology, we are talking about new additions to our stores, we are talking about special fixtures, and obviously it all, takes cost. But I would also put it in a different way. Since we all had a lot of time to think and revisit I'm sure there's a lot of engineering, or I would say, research and a new way of thinking. Like I think Mr. CKK said, can we look at this as an opportunity rather than a threat? So I'm sure, people have come up with their own ideas and own way of, how to go about this. A few aspects which, I feel we really can work on and kind of limit, or rather optimize the cost is. So first is obviously the main topic of our conversation today is in the design itself. How do we, make the design most cost efficient? All of the panelists, I think, belong to groups who have very large, chains or extensive range of properties. So, in fact, one big worry which even we are facing, and I'm sure everyone is, what do we do with those existing properties? How do we optimize those? And we don't want to look at, very large write-offs of, assets which are not usable anymore. So, what is it which we can just add or augment or modify slightly and make those properties, much more, I would say post-COVID kind of relevant. So that is part one. Second is for all the new, designs or new, stores we plan to open in the future. I think one key thing is we'll have to make them very, very adaptable. No one knows if, 6 months later there is a vaccine which is found, and we all go back to how things were. All this discussion might be, not so relevant. So anything we do now on has to be extremely adaptable. So if it has to change or has to be modified, it can be done easily without, with minimum fuss. On this adaptability, I would also like to put in one more word of modularity. So I think Paulomi also spoke about, off-site manufactured items and where, they are modular and just brought in and installed. Technology itself is probably biggest. We are, I think Mr. Bhupesh spoke about, if we can have the customer view what the donut we are making in Dunkin. Already, I don't know if you've ever ordered a Domino's pizza online. Right from the time it goes into the oven to, it's outside your door, you get complete updates. Maybe we just need to add this one more aspect of which is there. On other things, omni-channel, I think will be the biggest probably direction where everyone will have to go. So whatever you have in your store, you can get online. Before you physically reach the store, you can place the order. Your pizza or your whatever, shirt or anything which you're going to buy is ready for you. So physical or one-to-one interaction is minimized and, is kept at a distance. That could be one. Another big aspect of cost control, which, I've been working on and I feel has big, scope is the procurement methods. And this is relevant, I feel, for our Indian market a little more. So especially the design, not so much the design, but I would say the fit out industry in India is still relatively unorganized. There are not too many big organized companies who do fit out or fabrication of, fixtures or even kitchen equipment and others. So there, I feel the need now will be to get a more organized approach. I don't want to use the word bigger companies, but I would say more organized companies with better laid down processes, better infra. This is also important because all of us got, stuck in various parts of the country with our goods stuck in one state or the other. So a wider, network of suppliers, more organized suppliers where, your goods come or go, whatever. last aspect of procurement would also be, I spoke about modularity otherwise. There, a proper supply chain of what is coming from where, we'll have to establish that. And when we start talking, not very big volumes, but some volumes, maybe we can optimize that as, a lower, at a lower cost. On the execution, Poulomi also spoke, which is one of my actually favorite topics, about the labor, and how the labor was one of the biggest issues of this entire lockdown, and which I feel has there's a lot of work there. So I, for one, strongly believe this entire the way the labor is managed, or their training or their kind of facilitation probably will have to be put into the mainstream. Currently, I feel site labor is not a, not like a regular factory worker who gets all the benefits or has, a home to go back to. Usually they are staying at site or living somewhere in temporary accommodation and stuff like that. So I somehow feel that will also have to look into. I know it's not a cost saving measure, but somewhere
that will get impacted.
Yeah, somewhere it's going to come back and impact this. On labor also, I believe if you are able to organize your manufacturing and your site labor, provide them with better tools, working methods, you're going to save on time, and obviously that is going to impact your cost eventually. And finally is our overall I would say rules and regulations what we follow during any site fit out and all. We'll have to really look at those, because there again social distancing or physical distancing is going to be very relevant. So how many workers are there at a site, and what kind of sanitation rules they are following. All those also will become very relevant. Materials is the fourth thing which we'll really have to look at. So what materials we are using in our spaces, are they bacteria retaining, or more easy to clean, harder wearing, stuff like that also will really we'll have to work on that. Yeah, so I think these are 3 or 4 things which we'll really have to work. Some of them are going to push up the cost, but then we'll have to optimize on probably volume and better I would say research to bring down the cost as well.
Right. Okay, so I would also like to ask Mr. CKK the same question, because he's done an extremely good job at containing the capital expenditure, especially with the franchisee format when one goes into, because they're not willing to pay a large amount always. So how do you think, sir, can we do a better job at containing the capital expenditure as an owner? What do you think should be done? Dushyant, can you put him on mute? Unmute, sorry.
Yes. I don't think I have there is a straightforward answer for this. I think it's when we started our first salon, I used to bring chairs and wash units from Italy, and for that only I spent some 20 lakhs. Today they cost only 2 lakh.
So, that's a lot of cost saving.
Yeah.
Bad news for us.
Yeah. So from 20 lakh to 2 lakh, that's how much the market has moved, and that's what is the value of experience. When you start making a lot of mistakes, and you start learning things much faster. And in a franchise business, the franchisee is extremely. There is 2 things they want us to do. One is either to help them make more money or help them to save money. Yes. If we don't do either, they will cut us off. So that's on one side, we say we can pride ourselves having a large franchise network. The other side, the franchise network is extremely, every penny you have to make it work 10 times and 20 times. And that's what is going to be the post-COVID scenario also. To that extent, I think whatever we have done earlier, is going to be very helpful for the future, because always we looked at how much more. Even if I want to spend a little more, the franchisee there is not ready to put that money on table. So, and everyone is an entrepreneur there, so they all want to save that little money, and the collective use of that money is what you call is what is there. So I don't have an what you call straightforward answer for your question. I think that's
we
all
hear
I
you.
can say.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, design wise, we got some very good inputs from Sanjay and CKK sir, even in terms of franchisee and driving a business of that scale. I think there was some very, very valuable inputs. Now we're already past 5 and we quickly have to take some audience questions. So there are a lot of questions coming in. I'm just going to put up some audience questions here. Okay, there is a question from Rajesh Siddharth to Bhupesh. And he says, would people want to still come to the store for tech screen interaction or order online instead?
See, the fact is, online shopping has been there for some time now. I think even in the most advanced countries, e-commerce is not more than 14, 15, 20%. So there is an inherent human need to go out, to interact, a mix of human-centric design. So that need will always be there. It can increase, but I don't think it will ever replace. I mean, India is still behind the curve, but even in an advanced country, it's never seen like 100% thing. Some categories might be more conducive to it. But I think one of the key fundas of retail is discovery, is going and buying a shopping that you didn't know you wanted, but you appealed it to the, to the desire instantaneously. If I had pre-decided, sure, e-commerce is more conducive to those things. So I think that it will increase, but it will never replace. In a product industry, in a service industry like mine and CKK, it's completely experiential. And therefore, I think technology can only enable some stuff, can improve a process, reduce costs, but can never replace.
Right. So it has to be a fine balance. It can't replace each other. Now, one question for Mr. Vishal Kapoor coming in from Mr. Prajnay. How does brand discovery happen post-COVID? New products and brands were often launched in empty. How does this change or evolve? What could be the new ways of introducing brands or producers to the consumer?
So I think one of the things which COVID has done is it made us sit in front of the screen for almost 12 to 15 hours, right? And I'm sure all of us and all the audience, everybody must have seen everything on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is no restriction now that I will only watch this, because we've crossed that stage long time back. And that is where the opportunity of the brands now exists, because what COVID has done is it's brought some bit of behavioral change in the way we look at things. It will also impact on the way we will consume, maybe not as much as we think right now, but it will definitely do some changes. And I think when we look at the brand introduction and the brand connectivity, there are different methods now. For example, the social media itself is a very truthful way where you can showcase your brand. It's no more about that gloss and that unrealism which we would show on the billboards and the TV ads. It's really about me as a brand trying to talk what I am and what I can give to you, and you as a consumer accepting it. So the interactions can be as simple, clean, and as naked as that are possible. Number one. Number two, the brands which are now at the physical locations are also now trying to reach the customers. So I've heard a lot of stories about brands wanting to do possible pop-ups, possible trucks, to reach the large housing societies. And most of the urban scapes are scattered with small, medium, large housing societies or gated complexes. So there is a large opportunity there also, both for services as well as product-driven businesses. Third, of course, as we move ahead, we have a bit of a memory loss. Customers start coming in. The malls project that they are safe, because there's a lot of argument about malls being much more safer than the open street markets, because it's a much more regulated thing. But of course, there's a lot of measures to be taken to reach that level. But if you're able to cross that threshold, I think then the discovery will start happening in the malls also. I also see one pattern where possibly there will be, unfortunately, brands which will be moving out of the malls because of the unyielding part of their business, and there would be new introductions coming in. The new introductions might be temporary, might be permanent. So there would be a lot more happening in the brands. I also see a lot of collaboration between the brands. So one of our models, we were looking at collaborating the services with the products and the products with the experiences. So how those things come together, it can't be just me as a brand and I'm just selling clothes and nothing else. It can not go into that direction. So maybe we'll find a lot more solace when I hold Mr. CKK or Mr. Bhupesh's hand, and we all sort of come together with Dominoes provided by Sanjay.
So, Vishal, to build on that, sorry, Prerna. Vishal, to build on that, see, while you're right that there will be collaboration between the brand and the service, I think there'll be one, like CK said, there'll be a revenge shopper. I want to come and, pent up shopping. But there'll also be a reluctant shopper. There'll be one, oh God, I have to go out, so let me go out. There's a fear somewhere. There'll be fun to have brand collaboration. That once she's entered a mall, can she, by pre-appointed, go to a set of brands that are, relevant to her, so that we maximize her shopping journey. She's taken the effort to come once to the mall. To maximize her journey, how can we collaborate?
Your voice is
would be a very interesting way to do it,
True. Okay. And I think this is...
How can we collaborate?
Yeah. And I think that exactly this is where, if your data shows the loyalty and data shows the loyalty members, can you tomorrow devise a method where the most loyal consumers, the most loyal 100,000, 1 lakh consumers of yours are actually picked up from home, taken to the store, given a special importance and dropped back? I know there's a logic of economics to be worked in that, but assume the amount of loyalty you will get for those 100 to 500 customers. So yes, new methods have to be devised to give different experience to different segments.
Manisha wants to come in there.
Yeah, so I would love to add, this is just like the Emirates who started first with a limousine for your flight. Can you imagine, let's say I'm in the mall, so is Bhupesh, so is, Sanjay or CKK. And we say, okay, this is a premium lounge, this is the time, I'm sending a limo to fetch you. At one side, you can have your manicure, and at the other side, we'll arrange for a nice pizza for you. And at the other side, there's someone who's showcasing the products. I know I'd love to be Queen of Sheba.
Same here.
Invited me. And then,
Same here.
Before or after that.
So we'll soon have a store for you, Ms. Manisha.
Okay. And so if you feel that people are hesitant to come to the malls, so asking CKK or Mr. Bhupesh, that do you think you would offer them home service?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. In fact, I feel the home is not in our control.
Okay.
Home is far more riskier.
Right.
For our staff to enter into a home is far more riskier, and it's also loss of time. I think we need to be doubly more careful in a small environment which is in our control. That's my take. I think home service is a strict no, especially in a post-COVID scenario.
Right. Bhupesh, do you
Bhupesh can.
We already have a home service business.
Okay.
And I think I come back to that. There will be some set of customers who are waiting to come to the salon, but they will we don't know. There will be a set of customers who are reluctant to go out. There could be a new segment of customers who are like 60 plus.
That's there. It's going to be an amalgamation.
Potentially more dangerous and hence don't want to go out. That is a new segment automatically created. So I think we'll have to play it. In my case, in Renish, we played both ways. We have to reassure the customer that we are taking the same level of safety and precaution that we take in our salon. And how do we maximize that? Is where we want to play it. We're not keeping options closed. We already understand the home service business. We've been doing that for some time now. What are the changes we need to make is what we're working on. And with the collaborative, with the co-created with the customer, and then figure it out. That's what we think we're going to do.
Great.
No, my take is little different, Bhupesh. The problem is not for customers. Yes, customer wants home service. Is our staff safe when they go to the customer's house and if they come back COVID infected? That is what I want to avoid. That is not in my control.
Yeah, Manisha.
Sorry. So I would just, so now with the, people are spoiled sitting at home and getting everything at home. So the hyper local has become a big segment. You get your product, you order it for us. So what we've started is that we will have a fashion consultant, a watch consultant who will come in and show you a few products. And alongside we have our service centers. So the customer can also say, I would like to service this watch at a certain price. So there is a lot of, besides the omni-channel, which is online and all, you've got to merge these. And that's what I think home delivery is very, very important.
At Mohanlal Sons, even we've started a home service wherein we are offering we take the swatches of the fabrics and then people can get their suits tailor-made and customized and all of that. Yeah. And Mr. CKK at that point is very valid, that inherent fear is as it is there in the minds of the customer. But I think the fear would even more increase when he steps out. So when there are limited number of people going and interacting with him, and we're making sure that, they're healthy people and they're not with no symptoms of any kind of disease or anything. And then we're making them wear gloves and step out. So that is one option. I mean, and of course, every brand has a different approach, and we really have to see what works for each one of us.
So small, dipstick, which I did for my own society, which has almost about 1,600 members. And I tried to break them and put them into 3 buckets. So I called them the explorers, right? People who just sit in the car and go out even right now. So they're tired and they want to go out and go to a shop, go to a kirana shop, go and buy. There are people like that because there is a constant streaming of cars outside from the main gate. Then there are people who are reluctant buyers. Now, these are the guys who you need to nudge a bit, but if the truck comes down to the society, they will go down because they want to experience the shopping, but they don't want to go out of the gates. It's because there's a mental barrier there. And the third is, of course, the hypersensitive guys who want everything at home. And these are the guys who are even today living on free home deliveries. As Big Bazaar also, within my own society, we deliver almost about 30 to 40 packets every day. There's a very and I think this mix is going to keep on evolving, and because it's a very fluid mix. So as we change,
is this something like the pop-up stores?
No, the trucks are basically like a DMart truck comes and sells the fruits and vegetables. Okay. There is a vegetable vendor who sits down, who operates for 3 to 4 hours, things like that. So these are like partially made pop-ups, if you have to say the word pop-up. But yes, all I'm saying is that these 3 kinds of mindsets will constantly be, constantly influence each other. And thereby, as Bhupesh Reddy said, you might find segmentation changing as we go towards a less COVID situation.
Right. So we're running out of time. It's already 5:20. I'll just take one last technical question. And the question is either Sanjay or Polumi, either of you can choose to answer that. It's from Neha Rao. How will this pandemic change our HVAC systems, if you think it will at all? Because this person feels, especially now that we know that the virus can travel in the air, vents, and they get infected. So any solutions for that?
So, Polumi, you're taking it? Or?
Yeah, I'll take it. So there are 2-3 ways of tackling it. There are filters which are already integrated in your HVAC system, in which is an additional machine is attached to the fresh air, which can circulate the air, and you can get so-called virus-free air. However, what I feel the HVAC system is going to change primarily is this is a large format scenario. So in a smaller format scenario, we generally avoided having open windows. We were all into air conditioning. So some things which are seen is always going to be appreciated more. You say my HVAC has a filter, and I'm like, oh, this has a filter. But something which is visually seen, maybe having actually windows in our own stores, which wherever it's possible, maybe in a high street kind of a situation where we can have windows, might be that is something which we can explore. But yeah, in hot and humid climates, that's something which is which is still debatable how we have to go about it. But yes, HVAC systems definitely need a mind shift change in this post-COVID world that we are entering.
Right. Also, yeah, that was a very valid suggestion. Also, I want to add that there's still no science to support that the central AC spreads COVID yet. Although we're, yeah.
Actually, yeah, but the WhatsApp University is, kind of telling us that.
Yes, people want to believe everything.
Actually, ISHRE and ASHRE both have come out with a set of, advisory now in the post-COVID year. How we can have a, safe HVAC system.
Can I add here? In fact, if you go to the WHO site, they have a tab called Mythbusters.
Oh.
All the various myths going on in every WhatsApp university. get to that site, assuming the WHO has credibility anymore, but if you get to the,
Yeah.
I was about to come to that.
Yeah.
but if you get to the, it's very fascinating because like Manisha pointed out to Prerna's suggestion of having a sanitizing tunnel,
Yes.
they're very clear, don't do that. And that's in the WHO Mythbusters site.
Oh,
Go check
thank
it out,
you.
very interesting. And
Yes,
they have an opinion on the HVAC too.
Okay, so now one last word from all the panelists will help us wrap up this discussion in an ideal way. Starting with Mr. Okay, let's start with Mr. Sanjay Patil.
We spoke about a lot of things. I believe we've covered. I also would like to end this from my end saying, this is probably we always like to say, you never stop learning. And probably this is the biggest, kind of underlining of that statement. It's the best time to learn, and you'll have to learn while you're trying to move at the same time. So I think I would like to end with saying it's a good opportunity to learn as well as implement it right away.
Right, so, Manisha.
So I would just like to tell all the consumers out there, we are there to watch your back and our team. So just feel free, be happy, and come in and shop. You've all been cooped in. I'd like to use just one more second. I had to smuggle my 3.5-year grandson in because he was crying. Imagine he couldn't handle being at home with his parents and he's moved in with us.
Awesome.
See, that's the kind of person, so every person wants to move out. And
Right.
we are there to watch everyone's back.
Let's get back to normal, guys. Vishal.
So I think one, of course, is a time to be, with yourself, your family, and reflect on where your journey is as an individual, and as a designer, more important. The second thing, I think, we keep on again in the WhatsApp University, but part of it is truth is, how pollution levels have come down, how things have become more sustainable from an environmental perspective, how I can see my mountains from a city. I really wish there was, a larger design from the government which balances these facts, because if you look at right now, although we are all on the selling side, and I don't want to be a devil's advocate, but I think a lot of our buying beyond a certain point is just to sort of create the economic, bubble. And if we reduce that buying, nothing happens. It's just that the economy goes down. But if we can create a balance between that, I think it is wonderful, because I would still love to see mountains from my house rather than go to the mountains.
CKK, sir.
Reinvent physically, reinvent mentally, reinvent financially, and reinvent business models. And that's what is going to make us different in the post-COVID world.
Great. Bhupesh?
I think companies or customers who try to return or believe that life will come back to what it was, I think they are in for a mental change, right? Volatility is inevitable. Change is going to happen. I think we'll never come back to the old way of doing things. We are all in this storm together, right? But we are in different boats. Which is the boat that's going to survive is the question. What have you done to make your boat stronger? How you reskill, as CK said, reinvent yourself, reskill the business model, reskill the employees, re-engage with your customers are all part of it. Now, we also have something in the retail industry called a trust mark, and which is one of the first guys that a trust mark. I would love to have that develop. If somebody independent certifies that, yes, this is a trustworthy place to go, just imagine the amount of confidence that would generate in the entire system as a retailer, as a consumer, as a shopper, whatever. And I think that is going to evolve.
Right. Follow me.
Oh, I think in this kind of a scenario, what Mr. Bhupesh said was very true. That, let's make our fundamentals strong. If our fundamentals are thought for not just a 6-month kind of a scenario and more like a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year scenario, and we're working towards it and, strengthening that base, we are sorted. If not, then God knows.
Great. So in the end, I just want to add that don't worry, coronavirus won't stay long because it was made in China. But thank you, panelists. Thank you so much. It was very, very helpful and informative. And I'm grateful to all of you for your thoughts and your time. And thank you for all the audience for logging in. And a special thanks to the AIRG team, Zafar and Akash, for making this happen. And thank you, Dushyant. Can we have a look at you, Zafar? I think the people want to see you once. Thank you so much, Zafar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. You all were great. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prerna.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.